Welcome to another episode of Distory with Kate and Kirk. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and today it's a very exciting day for Kate and I because we have spent the last 6 months of our lives researching empirically as much as we can, detailing Tower of Terror both in its inception through the Walt Disney World version, and then of course we are finishing up today with the DCA as well as Disneyland Paris editions. We're going to put a pin in Tokyo because otherwise I think we might go cuckoo bananas and end up in the fifth dimension. So with me to close this wonderful chapter of Distory is Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, yo.
Hey, yeah, this is the end of season 4 too for Distory, which is very exciting.
End of an era.
End of an era, but we're coming back. Don't worry, there'll be a season 5, so don't worry, kids.
Wait, are we?
I think so.
I gotta look at my rider to see if I got everything I needed in renegotiation time.
That's true. I don't think Kirk has signed his contract yet, but
I have not, but I will.
Anyway, this is the final episode in this Tower of Terror series, and we're going to start off with the ride. We're going to go on this ride, and I have information from the Imagineering show info guide from California Adventure, which we've been talking about in this entire series. So this is for the service elevator from the show info guide. It says, since the passenger elevators were taken out of commission during the mysterious occurrence of 1939, guests are obliged to take the service elevator to continue their tour of the Hollywood Tower Hotel. The interior design of the elevator cab reflects its function as a conveyance for freight and hotel personnel. Within a steel framework box are sidewalls of heavy wire mesh. Benches and seatbelts have been installed to accommodate our guests. And there is a certificate, just like in the Florida version of Cadwallader, that is from the Escape Clause episode of The Twilight Zone, who's actually the devil in disguise who tries to make a deal. So he's like listed as the inspector. That also exists in this version as well. We don't need to go into it again, but just wanted to mention that does exist. What's up, Kirk? You're frozen.
No, I was just raising my hands because he was checking our safety equipment. I wanted to be safe.
That's right. Everybody's arms up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another note for the story synopsis from the show info guide. It says, for the ride, it says ascent. Before it ascends, the elevator ride vehicle moves backwards into the shaft. As it does, the dramatic, heavily shadowed lighting of the load area is transformed into a backlight starfield environment, and the voice of Rod Serling is heard. The sound of his haunting, evocative voice accompanies us on our journey. The ride vehicle ascends into darkness. So, Kirk, do you have anything to share with us about like maybe what's different about this ride from the Florida version or the ride mechanics or anything like that?
Yeah, so the primary difference here, and I'm showing a picture of the Walt Disney World Florida edition, is that we don't have a merge point because we found that, Walt Disney World was the very first. It was having some capacity issues. If one of the 4 shafts would go down, then it could impact the merge, and both of that side will go completely down. So as a result, they decided to switch for both Disneyland in Paris as well as DCA into what we're seeing right now, which is that 3 shaft system, right? Shaft A, B, and C. This allows for mechanically, it's just a lot more efficient. Now we talked a little bit about this, so I'm gonna go quickly, but still comprehensively. So because Florida has that V merge point and this one has 3 individualized shafts, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, the big significance is how this system works. So you're going to use a giant pusher, and the pusher will just basically move you from, if you're looking at this image right here, on the right hand side, this load and unload is going to be where your pusher is pushing the elevator into the shaft. Because remember, we were using a guided vehicle system in Florida. You don't need a guided vehicle system here because of the way that the vertical vehicle conveyance works. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But the big changeover, Florida versus Cali/Paris, is Florida utilizes the vertical movement as well as horizontal using an AGV, where the only horizontal movement is localized in California and Paris using a pusher system that pushes the actual car into the shaft, which is active for both show sequences as well as drop sequences. The propulsion system in Florida uses a traction elevator as well as onboard motors, where the dominance in both Paris as well as DCA is a high-speed traction elevator, but it doesn't need to utilize any of the motion redundancies that you get with an AGV. Right. Super efficient in this system, because having the 3 separate shafts means that one failure will only impact 33% of the capacity. So you'd still have 66% up and moving. So again, there is a passive roll cage system that's utilized. It looks almost identical to the ones that we have here in Florida. However, I'll show you what one of these things looks like. Oh, you know what? I can show you one of these motors. Let's look at a picture of a motor.
Let's do it.
That's the traction motor.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exciting. Thank you, Otis, for your traction motor. But I can show you what one of these, this is a vertical vehicle conveyance mechanic. And this, you've probably seen things that are similar to this in like stores like Home Depot and stuff like that, where they have systems that will like elevate and bring out, but it can also like move forward and back. It's kind of like a pallet jack kind of setup.
Right.
Although this one has a lot more speed and power. I believe I have one more. Here you go. This shows you some of the configurations, which this utilizes more of the straddle situation, because we're pushing and pulling in and out into the shaft, and then it's just going up and down. And that's essentially, all the movement that we get here. These are the Otis high-speed traction motors from the Otis Elevator Company. We had talked about these before. The motor room is at the very top of the tower. We had shown pictures of how if they needed to remove the roof, they could do so that they could actually work on these things, rather than the system in Florida, which is like basically you have to like blow out a wall. It's like, it's ridiculous what they have. So they are huge though. The motors are roughly about 12 feet tall, 35 feet long, and weigh 132,000 pounds.
Wow.
They can lift 21 guests plus the weight of the elevator cab itself, reaching roughly about 39 miles per hour or 13 floors per second. It is a huge, massive electrical drain, just because these things are so gigantic. And they have a variable frequency drive system that allows them for, if they have to make any kind of like split second changes in direction, which of course we know and love from that controlled drop sequences that we find in the tower. The physics here, if you want to get really nerdy, they pull the cables, accelerating the cab downwards at a speed greater than 9.8 meters squared, which creates our negative G-forces, which we love as we fly up and get roughly about 2 to 2.5 seconds of airtime. And then, of course, there is precision braking, and allows for things like fake out moves where it's, you feel like the cab shaking or pausing or stopping and changing direction.
Right.
So,
wow.
There you go.
That's involved.
Yes.
I'm not the I'm not the person who could design that kind of thing. So I'm always impressed by people who can, because that's
I mean, listen, what's impressive is that you take a company that was renowned for safety and innovation in the elevator space, and then make them to break it not once but twice. And they do a fantastic job, and it's completely safe. And I love the redundancies and the efficiencies. I do think not going through the fifth dimension changes your experience entirely, as going physically through the space, I think, is more impactful in terms of a storytelling. But from an efficiency perspective, it definitely benefits from loading and unloading this way. Yeah,
I agree. And so let's talk about what we have instead, because we don't go into the fifth dimension. From the show info guide, it says hotel floors. Ascending the tower, the elevator stops at a vestibule of a floor of the hotel. The main feature of this area is a huge mirror with an ornate gilt frame that hangs directly across from the elevator opening. The elevator also pauses briefly at a corridor of hotel guest rooms. At each stop, the design features of an elegant Golden Age Hollywood hotel are evident. The woodwork is dark and rich, the fixtures and furnishings lush and expensive looking. So what we're looking at here is, I would say it's kind of like our substitute for the fifth dimension. But it happens before the corridor scene. Okay. So it's like, this is your first stop is on this floor where there is a big mirror and you can see yourself, and it's got a big like gilt mirror frame around it. And we have some dying flowers in a vase and some like stuff scattered on this table in front of you, like napkins and a glass and whatnot. So this is what they call the looking glass in the Imagineering show info guide. So it says the first stop made by the elevator features an entirely new scene created for the California version of the Tower of Terror and not found in the Florida attraction. The elevator stops at a vestibule in front of a large ornate mirror positioned directly across from the elevator doors. The elevator passengers, who are able to clearly see the reflection, watch as lightning flashes in a nearby window and then strikes the mirror. Then, through a series of special effects, the mirror image of the guest is wrapped in lightning, just as the missing hotel guests were in the library video. The image of the guest becomes ghostly and then vanishes completely, leaving the reflection of an empty elevator car. At the same moment, the lightning reaches out towards the ride vehicle and strikes it, shaking it violently. So, Kirk, do you have any info about how this effect is achieved?
Yeah. So this is called the wave goodbye. Because really, Rod Serling right there says you're facing a different kind of reality. Wave goodbye to the real world. And literally, I love the picture that Kate had showed prior to this, where literally, oh boy is like, he's like waving to his mom, which, I will say in terms of the way that this is activated, it's pretty brilliant. And I think showstopper in terms of like bringing a guest into it. I kind of liken it to, if it was still working, the eyeball, that iris having the photo of guests.
Right.
Sadly, that doesn't occur, so it's kind of lost on you if you don't see that. But the way this works is it's using beam splitter optics, or as most people would call it, a two-way mirror. So, here's a little safety fun fact. If you ever go to a sketchy hotel, which I stay at plenty of them, make sure you do the finger test.
Yes.
So I'm going to teach you how to know whether or not the mirror that you're staring into is a two-way mirror. This is completely aside and just for your safety, Distorians. So a standard mirror, if you put your little index finger up against it, there will be a gap. There will be a space in between your index finger and the mirror itself. If it's a two-way mirror, there will be no gap between the reflections. So safe has a gap. Unsafe two-way mirror means you are touching your finger. There's no space in between. So just safety first,
Safety
kids.
first. Yes.
Safety first. This glass has a specific reflective coating that allows it to function both as a mirror and a window, depending on the lighting ratios. So all they're really doing here is tweaking the lighting ratios, and they're utilizing projections as well, coupled with some like ghostly, it's not like a Pepper's Ghost, but when they do beam splitting, which this gets really heady and my brain kind of shuts off a little bit. So I will just tell you that right now that I don't fully understand this. And if somebody else does, please explain, because I think it's really interesting. It's basically because the guest side is bright and the back side is dark. The glass reflects the light coming in, and to the eye, it looks like you're in front of that mirror. But when it transforms, the light the guest side goes dark. The reflection then vanishes. And as the back side lights up, the glass becomes transparent, revealing whatever's positioned behind it. In this instance, they're using that ghostly projection of our little Sally, which we'll get to her, as she is super creepy and integral to talk. Wait, I don't know if we ever went in detail.
Disneyland Paris, and that's only in the
That's
Disney
correct.
version,
The Sally Shine story.
Right.
So,
right.
But yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so fascinating effect though, because as you basically watch yourself disappear, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. You go bye-bye.
Which ties back into those concepts that we saw when we saw the original for the haunted hotel version, and they had like all the distortions of us and whatnot, which, like you said, would have been in the eyeball, or was kind of in the eyeball, and is now just kind of hinted at in the eyeball. That's not actually us anymore. So but I think that's why I call it kind of like our fifth dimension, because that is us kind of blinking out of existence. I like this comment. It says, just now realizing that the mirror, the looking glass scene, is probably a thematic reference to Alice through the looking glass, like Alice in Wonderland, with both of us and Alice going into another world. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. And yeah, But that's what it is in the Imagineering show guide. It's literally called the Looking Glass. So before we go to the hotel corridor scene, I'm going to take us on a little bit of a rabbit trail to the Haunted Mansion, if that's okay with you, Kirk.
Hang on. Go back to that picture real quick. We need to talk about why I'm looking at Severus Snape staring at himself in a mirror. What's up with that, dude?
Yes. So this is possibly a reference in this scene to a very early concept in the Haunted Mansion, because this is from Ken Anderson. This is some of his concept art of guests looking in a mirror. And I want to give credit to the Land of Shadow and Substance blog for making this particular connection. This wasn't my own original one. So this art used to hang in the Haunted Mansion gallery that they set up in Disneyland. And so I actually have seen this before they took it down in a way, which was very sad. What we're seeing here is a whole line of guests, some parents holding children's hands, and they're all looking at themselves in a mirror that has a big gilt frame around it, which is why I'm saying there could be a connection here. The plaque that was accompanying this image when it was displayed in a gallery said it's artwork for an early version of the hitchhiking ghost, but I don't think that's entirely correct necessarily, because the hitchhiking ghosts were a rather like last minute addition to the mansion, and this looks like very early concept art for when Ken Anderson was working on the walkthrough version of the mansion. So I don't think that plaque was actually accurate for that display of this artwork. But over on the Long Forgotten Haunted Mansion blog, they have an interpretation that says people see their own reflections in a large mirror and are horrified at how pale and ghostly they look. And it refers to a 19th century trick used in the Cabaret du Néant in Montmartre in Paris, which is the cabaret of nothingness. Okay? Get ready, Kirk, because this
sounds like this show.
The cabaret of nothing. Where's my bell? Ding! My bell.
It's the old Seinfeld episode.
So the Cabaret of Nothingness was actually near the Cabaret of Hell, which we talked about in the Mr. Toad series. If you remember the jaws of hell that you go through, or the hot place, I should say. We shouldn't say all those things, but
dude. Welcome to 2026, where Kate just rips obscenities.
This is where we're at now. I just don't even care anymore. But so this is what the Cabaret of Hell.
Also, there's a lot going to unpack in that photo.
There is. It's literally the outside of the building looks like a whole bunch of things that you would find in Dante's Inferno is kind of what you would see here. But this is what the Cabaret du Néant in Montmartre in Paris looked like from the outside. It was somewhat less dramatic, but this is the Cabaret of Nothingness. So it was, I have like a card from it. This is like an invitation to go to it, which I thought was kind of neat. It was a late 19th century, early 20th century entertainment venue in Paris that themed its food, decor, and magic show around death, the afterlife, and macabre illusion. So patrons dined amid skeletons and coffin tables, while optical tricks and cool. Theatrical spectacles used projections and dark performance to conjure visions of decay, ghosts, and mortality, making the experience both eerie and sensational. Yeah, I thought you would like this, Kirk. This one's wild. So the cabaret was one of several death-themed attractions that captivated tourists and influenced similar venues abroad, blending dark humor with shock entertainment. So Kirk, this is a menu, and this is the food menu, but I actually have the alcoholic drinks that were on their menu. You gotta hear these, because these are crazy. So they had absinthe they called the juice of crushed maggots. I'm sorry if you're eating while you're watching this, so just maybe pause eating for a second. The glass of Alsatian Bock beer was foam from Asiatic cholera germs. They had a glass of lager beer, which was a glass of strychnine. They had cherries and alcohol they called bone marrow from a corpse who died of malignant cancer. I mean, it's dark.
Oh my God.
The creme de menthe was the sputum from a TB victim. The rum cocktail was a pallbearer. Vermouth was shot of cholera, and glass of Chateau Le Pompe wine was glass of funeral parlor, which, like, how do you drink a funeral parlor? I think that one's kind of weak myself.
I don't know, formaldehyde.
But anyway, in this place, they had an exhibit where a spectator is invited to stand in a coffin. So, like, he would stand here. You can see on the left, there's people kind of looking at this. And then through a series of projections, it would essentially put him inside this coffin and turn him into a skeleton. And so his body would transform into a skeleton within this, which is what they use the Pepper's ghost effect to do.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild. I think that could be a callback from what we're seeing with the guests standing in front of something and then seeing something else. Could easily be potentially they were going to use something like this effect with Pepper's ghost effect from maybe even before they knew Pepper's ghost more came from Yale Gracie later on. But in any case, the idea of standing in front of a mirror, looking at yourself and yourself changing in some way, I think is what we're going for here. I also ran into another possible connection to the mansion that I just happened upon. So bear with me here. This doesn't really have anything to do with the tower, but I found this. It's a little scandalous. So cover your eyes, Kirk. It says, as the lights are dimmed, a canvas of frolicking lovers reveals their future doom in a graveyard. So what does this remind you of, Kirk?
I don't know. What am I supposed to say here?
Well, if the lights change, it goes from this.
Oh,
this one to
It's
this one.
it's like our changing portraits.
Exactly. So the idea of the changing
pass the test, kids. I almost failed.
The idea of the changing portraits potentially could have come from this venue of having something that was somewhat normal go to something really kind of creepy and spooky, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if we've ever made that connection before. So I thought that was
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. The last thing I'll share here is there's another concept that is from Ken Anderson that has a woman who's looking into a framed picture or mirror and has a candle nearby, but then she looks like her face is transformed into a face of an old witch. And it's accompanied by the words on the upper right. It says hysterical laughter. So yet another idea of guests looking into a mirror and it becoming something else. So these were very early concepts for the Haunted Mansion that I have a feeling they probably pulled from some of these when they were trying to figure out what they could do instead of the fifth dimension. So that's my guess. Next up, we have to go to the haunted hall or the corridor scene, but in the show info guide, it is called the haunted hall. So it says what?
That is a funny phrase.
Yeah. So it says the elevator doors close and the elevator moves to another floor of the hotel. When it stops, the doors open to reveal an empty hallway and a series of guest room doors. With a flash of lightning, the 5 missing elevator passengers from 1939 appear as ghostly apparitions in the hallway. They beckon us to join them. Again, lightning strikes. It wraps the ghostly images and the hotel walls in spectral lighting. The walls then disappear, transformed into a star-filled night. Up until this moment, the haunted hall scene is identical to the Tower of Terror, but the scene continues in this manner unique to this version of the attraction. So if you can look at the end of the hallway, Kirk, you see something different than you see in Florida, because what we see at the end is some elevator doors.
Yeah, another elevator.
Yeah. So it says all that remains of the hotel in this new segment of the scene is a second set of elevator doors at the far end of what used to be the hallway. The ghostly passengers disappear from the hallway, then reappear in the distant elevator. After a brief pause, the ghostly elevator drops and then the ride vehicle itself plummets. So that's what we're seeing at the end of the hall here is a different kind of projection, which is what we learned in Florida was back there, and arguably a somewhat better one, maybe a more convincing one, I'd say, than Florida. Something that we forgot to mention in the Florida version, I'm sorry, I'm going to take us to the Haunted Mansion a lot this evening. I apologize in advance. But do you remember, Kirk, in the Florida version, have you ever seen those plants that are in the hallway, like moving, like they're being blown by the wind?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something we didn't really mention last time, that there's kind of a fan on the plants when the ghosts, specifically when the ghosts start to appear. So it's almost like they're impacting it. But this is not the only time ghosts in a hallway, like who are producing some sort of ghostly wind, has occurred, okay, or at least had planned to occur, because we have to go to the Haunted Mansion. So this is one of the blueprints of the Haunted Mansion of a scene that actually changed, which is the endless hallway. We did talk about this in our Haunted Mansion series eons ago, 4 seasons ago.
Sadly a long forgotten ghost.
Yes. So
still hear it though.
Yeah, you do. So it says hallway with hinged doors, footsteps and sound, and then a traveling sound above. So what was supposed to happen here in this endless hallway was going to be a ghost that rushed over your head with the sound of footsteps moving towards you through a series of speakers, which are still there. So this is the placement of the speakers from the blueprints that you can see here. And the speakers do still exist. So they look like this, if you ever want to try to take a gander for them as you pass by the endless hallway. There are the speakers in the walls. Here's a close-up of what they look like. This also is why it says hot and cold running chills in that spot. So in the Florida version, you can still hear the whooshing air that is there as well. There's some debate about whether or not there's extra cold air in that specific spot, but it was a planned effect in Disneyland and likely used for a short time because there was 2 vents. I don't know if you can see it in this one, but see, it says cold air on the left. There's these 2 boxes that you can see on the left side of the hallway there. And there are 2 vents that are hidden on either side of the entrance, kind of in the stairs. And then there's actually an exhaust vent that is behind you that's supposed to kind of like suck the air out. So you're only supposed to experience the cold air in that section. It wasn't supposed to just be like AC, just chill in the room. So it was like a blast of cold air would hit you. And it, apparently, according to WED engineer Paul Saunders, who worked in the Haunted Mansion in 1967, the cold air effect was actually used for a brief period of time. So,
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But you can see on the right-hand side, there is the vent. So it's kind of behind you, your doom buggy. So you wouldn't see the vent unless the lights were on and you could look behind you. But that is where the vent is located that's supposed to take the cold air out. And then I also just want to mention that because this effect of the ghost rushing towards you and creating this like wind that would blow towards you, we weren't supposed to have this candelabra at all. I just wanted to quickly mention this because people are always saying that's one of my favorite effects, which I think, yeah, it's really cool effect, the floating candelabra. But it was a last minute addition, not intended for the space at all. When they realized that the ghost rushing towards you wasn't going to work, likely because of the timing of the doom buggies, they decided to add this floating candelabra. But do you know where they got it from, Kirk?
Where did they get it from?
If you could think of some place in the mansion that had floating objects in it, where would it be? Maybe a tambourine.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So this
in the seance room.
In the seance room, you can see this is the blueprints. They actually had a candelabra that was floating, located in the seance circle scene. And here's what it looked like for the mechanism for it to float. So they just pulled this random candelabra from the seance circle, popped it into the end of the hallway, and the rest is history. So
that's really awful.
It's really awful.
It's like the worst story for why that candle exists there is like we didn't want to do that anymore, so we just took that from there and then we threw it in there.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of a fun story, so I just wanted to
think that's a great story, but I'm so bummed out. That candelabra is like pointless now.
I know. And now they've made it a bigger deal in Disneyland because they put it in the graveyard scene too because of all the updates that they just made. So I'm like...
Good gravy.
Okay. So now we're moving now. We're going to go all the way up to, what would have been the 13th floor in the original version. But it says in the show info guide, it says the view from the tower and beyond. The ride vehicle rises once again. As it reaches its highest point, outer doors open to reveal a panoramic view of the Disneyland Resort. The guest image capture photo is taken as the elevator falls. There follows a program of rapid drops and ascents, the number and intensity of which are variable. The ride profile is fully reprogrammable. On opening day, after a series of heart-stopping maneuvers, the elevator pauses briefly for a second time at the top of the tower for a final view outside, then falls with a tremendous crash as cables, pipes, and broken bits of steel clattering rain down around the cab. So, Kirk, do you have any information about the drop sequences they use in this particular version?
Yes. So California from 2004 to 2017 and Paris from 2007 until 2019 utilize the same exact fixed identical drop sequence. So for those that are used to the Disney World one, where there's so much variation throughout the years, and now there's several drop sequences, here's the deal. You only had one for the longest time. It was pushback from the boiler, ascent to the mirror scene, which is the wave goodbye. Then you would go up to the hallway scene, the spooky corridor, and then you would go all the way to the top, which, depending, could be 156 feet roughly, and then a short drop of about 2 stories, followed by a pause, then a full plunge to the bottom of the shaft, and then it would rocket all the way to the top, and then hit the lights off, and then go all the way back down to the basement level. However, that does change in Paris. And it actually ties into some new storylines with 3 different drop sequences. So in 2019, there's a major permanent overhaul, which follows similarly to Florida to having a more randomized drop sequence, but now it's tied essentially to a storyline of a little girl, which you guys know this little girl as Sally Shine. So she's from like the pre-show, and Sally Shine is holding her little crazy looking Mickey doll, and she's with her nanny. And she was, she's kind of got this like child actress vibe. That's like, basically why she's at the tower,
like
right?
Shirley Temple, like the doll that we
exactly
found, right?
She's 100% a Shirley Temple character, but now she's going to become from 2019, and this is just Paris only. She's going to become a narrator and ghost almost antagonist inside the ride itself. So there are 3 distinct profiles. There's the malevolent machine profile, where the elevator itself is possessed and the little girl warns you that the machine is hungry or in control. And this profile is designed to feel mechanical and violent, and it simulates the cables snapping and makes it a lot more abrupt. And visually, this one has lots of the girl's laughter and lights flickering, showing the machine's dominance with like grinding metal and snapping cables, right? So that's profile A. Profile B is the shaft creatures. I didn't name this stuff, bro.
Creatures.
I'm just telling you what it is. The shaft creatures one is stating that the story is the elevator is infested with demonic shaft creatures who feed on human fear.
Oh my gosh.
And Sally warns us, you don't want to scream. Whatever you do, don't scream. This one is a little bit more erratic and stuttering. The drops are shorter but more frequent, simulating the sensation of the elevator being dragged down by creatures who are like fighting it as it's trying to ascend.
Oh my gosh.
So, projections of claw marks and a shadowy monster appear on the shaft walls and the doors. And then the last one is profile C, which is the 5th dimension. A sinister poltergeist opens a portal to a 5th dimension. And then this one kind of looks similar to what the 5th dimension looked like in Florida. So it's got all the fiber optic light kind of look and feel to it, as the endless hallway turns into or transforms into the 5th dimension. This one has more mid shaft, stops. So like less like full huge, drops, although it does have one very long sweeping one to make you feel like you're falling through an infinite void.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 It's intense. You obviously watched videos of this because I know you haven't been there yet.
I did.
It is scary. It's literally like being in a horror film because she's like, she's like twitching, like, like almost like, she's like, I don't know how you describe it, like in The Ring or whatever, where it's just like, she's kind of like, what's it? Glitching out.
Very, very demonic.
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture of her, but, now, kids, it's time to learn to speak French with Kirk. I found all of her lines in French, and we're going to translate them. Now, she doesn't say this in every one. I just translated the shaft creatures one, okay? So, Sally, it first starts out, and after these guys get seated, you see this projection right here, and Sally says, moi, je n'irai pas là-dedans à la place. I wouldn't go in there if I were you. So she's like really creepy in this entire thing. Then next, everyone starts screaming, right? Because like you immediately drop from there. And then it brings you up to the next scene. And this is the mirror scene. And she goes, shoot, si vous criez, que de ferie, que impéria. Shh, if you scream, it'll only get worse. So she's like warning you,
it's terrifying.
These creatures are coming for you, right? Then boom, everybody freaks out again. And the next scene is the corridor scene. She's going to say, laissez-vous que vous estez là, quoique vous faisiez ne crois pas. They know you're here. Whatever you do, don't scream. And of course, people are going to lose their minds. We're actually going into the drop sequence section. So it goes, there's her saying, shh, whatever you do, don't scream. Isn't she creepy looking?
She's so creepy. Literally,
Yeah.
so creepy.
It's great. I really, this makes me want to go to Paris, not only for Big Thunder, because I think it's the best Big Thunder.
It
It's
is.
also the best Haunted Mansion with Phantom Manor. But this, I had no idea this was this cool.
Yeah.
Until doing this episode's research.
It's intense. And the drop sequence is intense too. Like, it hurt my head when I got off of it. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. And then now the final sequence, she goes, La prochaine fois, soyez silencieux. Next time, be quiet.
Yeah, it's dark. It's a really freaky horror show kind of vibe from this version. And honestly,
super creepy.
I mean, if your kids are scared to go on this attraction, don't start them Tower of Terror with the Paris version. is my best advice. Like, start with honestly, start with the one in California Adventure with Gardens of the Galaxy, because that one's the most just silly and fun. But
yeah, I mean, if you look at, hang on, I'll show you a picture of, this was their, in 2019, the revamp picture where it says a new dimension of thrills and chills. And there she is, Sally. Like, you know how we talk about plussing a lot in Disney Imagineering, where they're changing a ride for the better. This got plussed.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Tom Fitzgerald about it, and it said the television sequence in the library scene of the attraction features a cast of characters that includes a rather precocious young girl. In this new version of the show, the girl becomes a starring character in the ride, warning us not to cross over into the Twilight Zone. When we fail to heed her warning, thrills follow. The Imagineering team also added new illusions, media sequences, and audio soundtracks to create not one, but 3 different show and ride sequences for the attraction. So that was when they were talking about plussing it, specifically what they were looking, and they said, like, they wanted it to connect to the original storyline. They didn't want to completely replace it. And so this was kind of their idea of giving it a fresh look while still making it connected to the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about is the closure of, because I just think, because we're talking about like reimagining, I think this fits here, even though timeline wise, it's a little bit wonky, is there was a period right before the tower closed in DCA where they had a new sequence added that was called late checkout.
Oh, cool.
Did you see this?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay. So late checkout was experience as you've never had before in complete darkness. All they did, which I think is still pretty cool, is they just took all the show sequence lights off when you were in the tower. So like, as soon as you got into the elevator, pitch black the entire time.
Wow.
You got the audio, but it was pitch black. I think that's cool.
That is cool.
I think that's fun. And then they sold like a bunch of like fun merch for it, like the ornaments and then the hotel tags. I think that shirt is amazing. The Hotel Tower final checkout. That's a great.
Yeah.
Like
it is.
Hi, welcome to Kirk's Soapbox. How come we didn't get any Muppet Vision, closure merch, anything?
Yeah.
Okay, moving forward.
I know.
I'm not going to talk about it.
There should be closing merch for stuff.
When stuff closes, people like, they typically will buy out everything that exists, right? So like your current inventory, but catered, limited specialty to especially applaud something like the tower in DCA.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool that they did that.
And the Muppets even are way more beloved than this version of the tower. I mean,
everybody would have lost their minds for Muppet stuff.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Missed opportunity, for sure.
Here we are just being a bunch of shaft creatures, man. Feel like a shaft creature after this whole series.
Well, then we get to the unload, and I just have a couple of notes from the show info guide about the unload area. It says, a warm welcome back. At the bottom of the elevator shaft, shrouded in darkness, the elevator moves forward into the unload area. As inner elevator shaft doors open, a starfield appears, which then dissolves into reveal the basement level environment of the hotel. Hotel staff members, oblivious to the guests' harrowing journey, are on hand to greet the returning guests with smiles and pleasantries. And it says the back of house design established in the boiler room continues in the utility corridors leading guests from the unload area. The walls are decorated with simple utilitarian stenciled designs, stenciled signs. These signs were meant only for hotel staff and maintenance workers. Poster cases, house staff announcements, want ads, and event notices, all proper to the date the hotel was last in operation. Before we move on to what happens after we get off the ride, we got to take a quick little break and talk about a few things that are going on at Welver's Carp and Disney Cicerone. So, Kirk, what do you got going on in 2026? What's up over there?
I'm going to flip the script, and I want to talk about you guys for a second, because I'm always constantly talking about projects that I'm working on. And I just want, because it's the beginning of the year, and I always think about this, is that think of that one thing that you can accomplish this year that's enriching for yourself, whether it's a personal goal, a financial goal, a health goal, a relationship goal, an experience goal. Think of that one big thing that if you were to look back at 2026 and be, man, I'm so glad that I accomplished that. And it can be small things too. You know, it doesn't have to be, everyone's mountain looks different. So just take the time right now to write down at least a handful of things you want to accomplish or experience with yourself or with those that you love. And then start writing down some steps of how to accomplish those things, because I do think that's paramount. And we're so caught in our routines all the time. This is a great refreshing reminder that it is a new year. It can be a new you or a new life. You're just one step away from a completely different experience. So take that moment for yourself, rather than me try to talk about stuff that I'm doing. And I hope you have an amazing, amazing 2026.
Yeah, here. I'm currently coming off of a long writing retreat in Florida. And the goal for the writing retreat for me, at first I was like, okay, I want to finish this book that has to get out in early February. And then I want to write all these chapters in this next book. And I was being really, really focused and intentional. And I do. I work a lot. I work nonstop. I'm kind of a workaholic. And I was like, well, what if I just worked on kind of finishing this one book, maybe writing a little bit if I need to, but what if I also focused on giving myself a little bit of a rest and a break? And so I think, focusing on what rhythms feel really good for you in this new year as well. And, having goals and moving towards them. But, for those of us who lean towards the other side of maybe workaholism, maybe giving yourself a little bit of a break and saying it's okay to breathe and rest is really, really important. And if you don't rest, you will burn out. So, integrating what does it look like to have some balance between rest and work in this new year. And that's something I'm focusing on for myself as well. Trying to make room for friends and fun and just some peace, just to rest and really just be and exist. And in that, you then find more ways to be creative and to do more things because you have fuel to go forward. And also that I always say creativity in equals creativity out. I think that was Joe Rohde might have said that at some point, but that's definitely a thing that we hear a lot. If you're feeling really uninspired, if you're feeling burnout, if you're really just not sure what to do with yourself, go find something that inspires you, whatever that is, whether it's music or art or performing arts or, just walk in the woods or whatever it is that inspires you. Go find something that can pour into you creatively so that you can pour out in whatever your creative medium is. And creativity has a very wide range of what that could look like. So burnout doesn't have to happen to you. You can choose for yourself to rest and also have that creativity coming in so that you can be creative and give more out to the world. So that's what
it's Kate, I think that's a beautiful message about, in terms of pace, because, if you look at all things that you accomplish, they're not done instantly. And in fact, I feel like we're programmed nowadays more than ever that things are instantaneous or whenever we want them. But a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And it's really about just continual progress, but not necessarily sprinting. Yeah. So if you need to sit on a bench and reflect, the journey's still there. The path is still there. And if other people pass you in that path, don't be upset that somebody else has a slightly different pace, because I've watched so many people quit the race. And that's the game. The game is just don't quit the race.
Yeah.
You take your time, but finish it, especially if something's important to you. Because the last thing you want at the end of this whole journey is to go, I've wasted it doing just, you either work on your dream or you work on somebody else's.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think Kirk and I, we're wrapping up season 4 of Distory here, which is wild that we've been doing this for that many years. But we're headed into season 5. And, anytime that is a marker, a close of one thing and opening of another is very much a time to reflect about how far you've come and what you've done and all the things that you've accomplished. And sometimes it's hard to see the progress when you're in it. You really feel like I'm not getting anywhere and I'm really frustrated and I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. But then if you really do look back at how far you've come, you're like, actually, no, I did a lot of things, I've accomplished a lot of things to get me here, or I've changed a lot, or I've learned a lot, even if you haven't made the progress that you wish you had, you as a person might have been the person that got most of that benefit. So, don't be so hard on yourself and recognize that it is a long marathon and just stay in it and don't quit. Especially on a bad day. Don't quit on a bad day, right? So keep going.
Yeah, quit when you're on top, dude. I love that. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful messages for the new year, Kate.
Yeah, it's nice to just reflect on things that we've learned, because it's a journey that we're both on our own ways. So That being said, we got to wrap this thing up. So we got to head to the exit. And we're going to start in this exit corridor area. So the guests leave the elevator and proceed down the hotel's utility corridors as haunting Twilight Zone music lingers in the air, which we talked about in the Florida version. So I'm not going to get into it here because there's a whole bunch we could say about that music. But then we end in the image preview area. The retail arcade shop is what the show info guide calls it. It says, leaving the utility corridors, the design intent abruptly changes once again, returning to the elegance established in the lobby. Here, the guests enter a hotel shopping arcade. This is also the image preview area where guests can view the photos captured during the ride. These images are featured on video monitors styled as vintage television sets in the window of a shop called Modern Wonders. And these are the Wonders modern to 1939 typewriters, electric shavers, and TVs, and etc. So we can talk about those a little bit. So Kirk, the way I organized this is I kind of grouped them into categories. So I did like typewriters and shavers and TVs and cameras and things. So just to kind of keep it somewhat organized.
Yeah.
Typewriters in general is a reference to season 2, episode 4, a thing about machines that we've talked about before. In that episode, Bartlett Finchley, a snobby and technophobic food critic, becomes convinced that the machines in his home are rebelling against him. So his typewriter repeatedly types out the message, "Get out of here, Finchley," all on its own. So there is a note that's next to one of these typewriters that says, "Practically writes by itself," which is a reference to that episode. But this one here, this red typewriter, is a red Royal Model P portable typewriter that was introduced in the 1930s and known for its compact design. It also had glass top keys. And this is kind of what it looks like if you pulled it out of there. Yeah. This actually really made me want a typewriter, not going to lie. I miss them from when I was a kid because they were so fun to play with, So
I only had an electric one and it was not as fun.
It's fun when you push down all the keys and they all go up at once and get stuck. That was one of my favorite things of playing with an old typewriter. Then we have this one, which is kind of this colored keys here. This is a Remington Model 5 portable typewriter with colored keys made in 1936. It features a streamlined Art Deco design, often with a crinkle paint finish. And this model in particular uses a unique geared type bar mechanism, which provides a light touch and is quieter than some conventional typewriters. So this was technology back in those days. So
dude, huge.
Yeah. Then there's also this teal typewriter. This is a Remington Portable number 2, built in 1928, that you can get for now $225 today if you'd like to buy your own. That's kind of a pretty one.
Just as a side, I always think it's interesting because we're going through a major technological switch with AI and whatnot. The amount of things that happen, jobs or products or services from technology advances, there was no whiteout before this.
Nope.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
What about a stenographer? A stenographer wasn't a thing.
Yeah, those typewriters are weird. Have you ever seen them?
I don't know how.
My brain can't do that. It's these are here,
it's like a Tetris pad.
Yeah. So then there's a whole bunch of cameras. This is a reference to a most unusual camera, where a camera photographs the future. We've talked about this previously, so I won't get into that too much. But that is the Twilight Zone episode that it's referencing here. So we see these tan and black cameras that are at the bottom of this one, these are a Kodak Bow Brownie box camera and a Kodak number 2 Bow Brownie box camera. It was produced between 1930 and 1933 and designed by Walter Dorwin Teague. And I was like, well, who's that? Because we hear him referenced an awful lot in this. When I was researching this, he was a pioneering American industrial designer who helped define modern product and corporate design in the early 20th century. He brought streamlined Art Deco influenced aesthetics to everyday objects and major brands, most famously shaping the visual identity of Kodak cameras and World's Fair exhibits. So this is Walter Dorwin Teague. You're going to hear his name again and again in this, but this particular camera featured a metal body covered with imitation leather and the Art Deco facade, which is actually really cool looking. It's kind of like these like rectangles that are, geometrically put together. It was designed to use 120 roll film. It was available in black, blue, green, rose, and tan color options. So it wasn't just black. It was actually quite pretty.
Fun fact, my mom had one of these and took pictures at the New York World's Fair with it.
Did she really? Do you still have them?
I swear. She has photos. Yeah. She showed me a handful of them. I'm going to her house tomorrow. I'll talk to her about them.
Yeah. I would love to see those. That's awesome.
Yeah. The photos are not what you want it to be. You want it to be like the exhibits and like all this. It's like my mom, like, so it's all just people. It's just like her friends and stuff.
Just look at what's behind the people. That's what we do as historians, right?
Yeah,
We're like,
right.
Forget the person in the front. We don't care about that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in the back left, there is a Kodak Jiffy 616 folding camera, which looks like this. That was made by Eastman Kodak Company between 1933 and 37. Also designed by Walter Dorwin Teague in the Art Deco style. It was known for its simplicity and ease of use with a pop-out lens board that was deployed by a touch of a button, which actually is kind of cool. So I'm going to pop out that one. And then in the back right, there is a number 1A gift Kodak camera, also designed by Walter Dorwin Teague for Kodak. And this one uses 116 film and has a meniscus achromatic lens. And I was like, that sounds crazy. So a curved meniscus-shaped lens was designed to reduce chromatic aberration, the color fringing that occurs when different wavelengths of light focus on different points. So it achieves this by combining lens elements made from different types of glass, typically crown and flint. So the colors converge more accurately when the meniscus curvature, helps control distortion and improve image sharpness. So this would give you a very sharp picture, is my understanding, from its curved meniscus-shaped lens. So
very cool.
Yeah. Then and this is what it looks like if you're outside of the tower. And then the top camera that we see on the other side is the one that's in the Twilight Zone episode, so we won't go over that one too much. But then the left middle is a Kodak Brownie Target 616 box camera produced by Kodak approximately from 1941 to 1946. So I actually think this one is one of the cameras that was not time appropriate for this display.
Boo.
I know. And this one uses 616 roll film. And there's another one next to it that uses that Target 620, and that's why it's in the picture. And this one had a simple fixed lens and a slide on top to switch between f11 and f16 apertures for different lighting conditions. So this one, they're starting to get fancy with controlling your lighting in this particular version. Like Kirk and I have kind of like ventured into the photography world a little bit in doing what we do as content creators. And so I don't know, Kirk, I think this is interesting to see that like how they progress through time, get better at different things. So.
Oh yeah. It's wild now too.
Yeah. So the right middle is a Kodak Brownie Junior 616. So the other one was a Target 616, and this one is a Junior 616, which is an affordable box-style camera introduced in the late 1930s that used 616 roll film to make large, detailed negatives. Designed for simplicity and mass appeal, it helped make photography accessible to families and amateurs during the Depression and early wartime years. So this is more for people who didn't really know how to use a camera. They got a Junior 616.
That might be what my mom had.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Could be. And then we have this one in the bottom left is a Kodak Flash Bantam camera. This one's definitely not time appropriate because this was from 1947 from Kodak. And then it was notable for being the first flash-ready camera in the Bantam line. It uses 828 film and features a bellow design, which allows the lens to fold into the body of the camera when not in use. It's kind of a cool design, but
yeah, it's neat.
Just not in the 1930s. And then on the other side is a really cool one. This one apparently is like a collector's special. And this one I love the design of. It was a Kodak Bantam special camera produced from 1936 to 1948. It was a high-end Art Deco camera that was designed by Walter Dorwin-Teague and celebrated for its sleek metal body and compact use of 828 film. Aimed at serious amateurs, it paired striking modern design with advanced optics, making it one of Kodak's most stylish and technically refined pre-war cameras. But it's
cool.
Pretty. It's got like black, like silver lines in black. Like I would love to own this camera just for how beautiful it is.
Yeah, that's very fun.
Yeah. So let's pop over to radios. Let's talk about that a little bit. The radios are referenced to the Twilight Zone episode Static from season 4, episode 2, where an old radio tunes into programs from the past. We've talked about this one before, so I'm not going to linger here too long. But one of the coolest ones I saw was this one that looks like it's white with like a red circle on top. And I was like, what the heck is that? Because it looks bizarre. This is a radio. And this one is a Sonora model WAU 243 tube radio receiver produced around 1939. So it has this asymmetrical machine age design and a large translucent maroon top dial that glows when the radio is on, indicating the station position. This is an AC/DC super heterodyne ivory bakelite table model. We already talked about that in a previous episode, so we won't go over that big fancy word again. But this was originally sold for $29.75, and now you can get it for about $200. So,
Oof.
Yeah.
Actually, pretty much like held its.
Yeah, it really wasn't.
It's like the same value.
Yeah, pretty much. Then there's this small rectangular radio with a red gold face that you can kind of see in the top of this picture. This one is a True Tone Coronet Bakelite radio by Western Auto Supply. Then there's this small white rectangular radio that is a Silvertone radio, likely a tube-based model from the 1940s or 50s. This one might be a little bit older, but this was a brand name that was used by Sears, Roebuck and Company for their electronics. And this design is typical of the All-American 5 style, a common and inexpensive type of AM radio in the mid-20th century, most likely made from Bakelite, which is essentially like what they had before plastic. They use Bakelite for a lot of things, in case you aren't familiar with that phrase. Then this one I think is one of the coolest ones in here. This is the blue circle radio that you see in the upper left here. This is designed by Walter Dorwin-Teague in 1936 for the Sparks Worthington Company. It has a 14-inch cobalt blue mirrored glass front panel with chrome speed lines and ball feet. And this is called the Bluebird radio. And the original Bluebird radio is considered an icon of the Art Deco era and is featured in museums like the New York Met. So I was like, okay, what does the New York Met have to say about this? Because you know that they've got this thing curated, right? So this is the description from the Met. It says, the sleek design of this radio embodies the luxurious, carefree lifestyle espoused by Hollywood movies and popular music of the 1930s, which portrayed skyscraper living as the height of sophistication. Following a tantalizing advertising campaign, the Spartoon Corporation unveiled 4 radio models, including the Bluebird, at the 1935 National Electrical and Radio Exposition in New York. With its dramatic chrome accents and bold blue glass body balanced on glossy black round feet, the Bluebird quickly became known as a masterpiece of Art Deco design. But I was like, wait a minute, there was a radio exposition and we weren't told? I want to know what that's about. So I went to go find some photos of the radio exposition. I couldn't find 1935, but I did find 1934's radio exposition, and it's like you would think it is. It's a conference room full of full of radios.
That's cool.
It is. And
look at the Kelvinator.
I know, the Kelvinator, and they have Atwater and Kent. They've got
the Tune-O-Matic.
The Tune-O-Matic. And then they had other things here too. There's a whole RCA display, which is what you're seeing here. And RCA was a huge sponsor of that particular exposition. And then they also had Kelvinator like refrigerators. So it wasn't just radios on sale on display. It was a lot of different electronics that, just basically like a tech conference is what this is, but in the 1930s. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting aside, because I was like, oh, that would be kind of fun to visit in the 1930s and see what they've got. That's the newest technology.
Yeah.
So, also I found this one. This wasn't in any display. I just thought it was really cool that they had this radio from the 1939 World's Fair, which features that, Trilon and Perisphere that we talked about before. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it's
That
got
is
like
cool.
a map of the fair on it too. So it's probably made from Bakelite if I had to guess, just based on the time period. But now we have to go over to this other area that has, first we're going to visit the phones and then we'll go to the shavers. So there's a little red phone in a corner that is a toy telephone from the episode Long Distance Call from season 2, episode 22 of The Twilight Zone. A card next to this phone, by the way, says, "Perfect for the children's room and those late night calls from Grandma." In this episode, a young boy named Billy Bales receives a toy telephone from his beloved grandmother, who soon dies but seemingly continues communicating to him through it. As Billy insists he's talking to her beyond the grave, the calls become increasingly disturbing, pushing him towards danger as he tries to reach her on the other side. In the end, his father pleads for Billy's life by using the phone himself, and Billy is saved, leaving open the question of whether it was supernatural or simply faith that intervened. But
Yeah, well, this is messed up though, because in the episode itself, like his grandmother's basically like, "Yo, join me, Billy."
yeah, like, come hang with
She's-
me on the other side.
Bruh,
Yeah.
bro, she
It's dark.
is not a good grandmother.
Yeah. But like, is it her, or is it like, a demonic force or whatever that's talking to him? That's the question. So this is a red vintage toy rotary phone, potentially a dial-o-phone pressed steel toy. So it features a classic rotary dial design popular from the late 1890s to the 1940s. Some similar items are made of ceramic and function as piggy banks. That's pretty much all I have about it, is like that it's a metal phone, but this is likely what this is. It's slightly different. This one looks nicer / newer. They painted it than the one I showed you, but I'm pretty sure it's the same one from what I can tell.
Yeah, and plus you can talk to your dead grandmother.
Yeah, it's what did it say next to it? Perfect.
She'll guilt trip you from beyond the grave.
Perfect for the children's room and their late night calls from Grandma. Mm-hmm.
Bring, Billy.
Oh gosh. Okay, so the other thing that is around the phone area is a whole bunch of electric shavers. So, Kirk, what do you got for us with some electric shavers? Take it away.
Let's talk about razors. So this, obviously, Kate had mentioned this earlier in the episode. This is from A Thing About Machines, which is season 2, episode 4, which Bartlett Finchley is versus his technology. But in this instance, he's being attacked by a electric razor, which kind of it unplugs itself from the wall and begins to like slither across the floor, and it has this like real long snake-like, movement to it. But they called it like a mechanical cobra because like its head was positioned or where the razor head would be, and then the length of the body and the tail would be the remainder of the electrical cord. So it moves, it hunts him, it follows him around, it vibrates, it buzzes. What's funny is if you can get some like really good graphics from this. I didn't take a screenshot from the episode when I watched it, but like you can kind of see where they have like the fishing wire, like the invisible string, like when it's high def, and you could see that this is clearly like being marionetted in front of them, which is quite
Kirk,
funny.
you're not supposed to tell them that. It's
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
come
sorry.
to life.
It's real. But now we have to geek out a little bit about, sorry, I just saw this screenshot and laughed. It's Finchley smashing his TV with a giant chair. But we need to talk about the history of shaving, because honestly, this brought me to a weird place, and I didn't know when and how and why we started shaving, both men and women, why we started shaving. So this is a brief history about why we're hairless. So, starting off, this is actually, from earlier, I believe it was in the 20s, but it's blaming women as to why men are shaved or clean shaven, because it's not really until like 1910, even 1915, that men were consistently clean shaven. And this ad, specifically from Gillette, says, woman is the great civilizer. I know you would like this, Kate. If it were not for her, man would revert to whiskers and carry a club. Woman does much for the Gillette because it is her presence, her influence that puts the emphasis on good clothes, clean linen, and a clean shave. She admires the clean, healthy skin of a man who uses Gillette. She does not approve the ladylike massage finish of a tonsorial artist. The massaged appearance ceases to be a class largely because they said so. There's something fine and wholesome about a Gillette shave. So, so women are the reason why men started shaving.
You're welcome.
But now, the real question is, well, why do women start shaving?
Oh
do you
my
like
gosh, the picture?
Dude, bro, there are so many good images from this. If you're listening to this, I just put up an ad from the 1930s that says, "Borrow his razor if you must, but now shave as a lady should. A revolutionary new beauty aid razor."
Basically, let's make it pink. And then they're like, let's charge more for pink tax for women. Yes.
That's true. Mm-hmm. That's true. But you're to blame. So enjoy the repercussions of you gallivanting and drinking, and more so, you can see on the left-hand side, I like this picture of four ladies drinking out of beer bottles, but they have their dresses on. But you'll notice that the one all the way on the right, what's different about her dress? There's sleeves on all the other ones.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the real reason, is because of high fashion. So high fashion pushes the impetus, particularly because prior to this, women really didn't shave their pits much. But now, due to the flappers and sleeveless dresses and having, your arms being shown more, and your underarms in particular, there is a push that there's a cleanliness issue or hygiene issue when it comes to hair. So, hang on, I found an electric razor for women. It's called the Lady Sunbeam Shave Master.
Oh my god!
I like how they wrote 4 legs, and it comes with a bristle brush.
Probably to clean it, is my guess.
Well, I would hope so. But there's some more great ads from this time period. You need not be embarrassed when you go to the beach this summer. Are you afraid to raise your arms? Are you going to shrink from the scrutinizing glance of friends?
Peer pressure.
Dude, bad. It's bad. You
don't want to be judged.
And all you got to do is ask at your toilet goods counter for Zip. It's off because it's out. This was a time period which was kind of interesting, because not only was there a push for razors, in particular female driven razors, starting really with Gillette, but then there's all of these cosmetic formulas. It's kind of like the snake oil vibe is what I get from all these things. But Nair is still around. I remember when kids would try to pull pranks on their friends by putting Nair in their shampoo.
Don't do that, kids. Don't ever do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. But this would cosmetically remove your hair. And I like how they just say, in the brief minutes, the hairiest legs or arms become soft and smooth and inviting. Not a hair, not a fuzz. That stuff burns.
It does.
Nair, that does not feel good.
No.
But here you go. You can get some Nair for yourself. They also had this wild underarm shaving razor, which is insane looking. I would never use that round. Or recommend. It's round, and it's got blades everywhere. That is. But listen, for $1, the Shermac is a splendid Christmas gift.
Well, we missed out. Next year.
Yeah, you could have. But this is actually the very first female razor. This is the Milady Decolette Gillette for $5 in French ivory and gold, and it was 14 karat. And they put it in a really fancy case. And it's good dressing and good grooming is keeping the underarm white and smooth.
Yeah.
According to the Milady Decolette Gillette.
I said décolleté. I think it's décolleté.
Décolleté? Yeah. I don't know. Bro, I'm not French, dude. What do I look like?
Wow. Welcome to my women everywhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. It was a wild time. All right. Now, this it doesn't end there. It ends here.
That's what I feel like doing when you talk about shaving underarms.
Oh, it's wild. It's wild. So, okay, now we move away from razors and go to electric razors, right?
Yeah.
So Schick was one of the proponents, and I think the ones that are here are probably more than likely Schick razors, just because they seem to be the most prevalent out of all the razors that I found on my research. But there's tons of them too. There's even this one, which is called a Electro 3-headed shaver model.
$20, man. You can own your own.
Dude, the Electro. Look, the Electro comes with one of those little bristly brushes things.
Yeah.
But can I show you something that's pretty fun?
Yes, please.
Because electric shaving was relatively new, you had to explain to people that this wasn't going to harm them. And to do that, advertising.
Nice.
And one of the best ways to advertise is to put it into cartoons. I found a Looney Tune cartoon called Porky's Party, which was about his birthday with his dog that was called Black Fury. Now, why is this important? Well, inside the actual, and I'll show a little clip of this, Porky Pig, it gets a letter from his friend saying, hey, we're going to come on over and celebrate your birthday. So him and Black Fury go into their bathroom, and there's a straight razor or a regular Gillette razor. And then there's also this electric shaver, which product placement
nice
inside this cartoon. But my favorite part, I'm going to show you exactly what happens to poor Black Fury, the dog. So, wait, hang on. Wait, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So Black Fury goes into the bathroom and starts dousing his hair to get what he thinks is gel, but it is not. It is hair grower, which is 99% alcohol. He starts tasting it, and Black Fury likes the way the hair grower tastes. Homie starts chugging the hair grower and starts getting really sauced up for Porky's party. Now, what happens later on is his friends come over. They're having cake. There's a very Donald-looking duck in here as well.
Yeah.
But
with no pants.
Poor Black Fury looks like it from the Addams Family. He is so hairy, it's ridiculous, and he is hiccuping and from slamming the 99% alcohol hair growth that Porky was trying to grow before his friends show up. So what does he have to do? He has to reach for his fancy electric shaver. So he's going to use a bar soap, and then it kind of reminds me of poor Finchley, because the electric cobra goes right after him. And funny enough, the time period for this was 1938 that this came out.
So right before the tower. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Time period wise, similar. So
interesting. Well, it's funny.
So
they try and convince people that it's safe, and yet they'd make a cartoon where it's chasing you.
Well, listen, man, you're trying to give him his Schick's appeal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
What does it say? It says, free the face you
love from razor blade skin. Mm-hmm. Give the man of your heart a Schick dry shaver. Be he father, husband, son, or big brother. It's the first time he uses it. He'll bless you for the wisest of gift choosers. You know, what's interesting too is the way that they positioned razors for women was not necessarily hair removal, but for like being smooth and clean. Because they didn't actually, most women were still like, for facial hair, were still bleaching or using like a Nair-like product rather than using like razors on themselves.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's why we do it, kids.
That's because of the flappers in the 20s.
Oh,
they doomed us.
And this is how you feel every time you have to do it. I'm sorry.
Finchley and his TV. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Now we're stuck in an endless cycle of hair removal from here on out.
You can't stop.
I'm in the tower next to these shavers is what they call them in the tower. It says, there's a card next to one of them that says, has a long cord, can follow you everywhere. So
Yeah.
a reference to that episode there.
Little cobra.
And then it also has a note from the, what is it? From the show info guide that says there's also an array of vintage television sets, which were first introduced to consumers in 1939. So I didn't see any on display, except I think they're talking about the photo preview screens in this area as the TVs, because there wasn't any like particular televisions that I saw on display. Then we also have in this area something that is called Willoughby Travel. So it's across from the Modern Wonders. There's a window that has Willoughby Travel on it. This is from an episode of The Twilight Zone called A Stop at Willoughby, written by Rod Serling in Season 1, Episode 30. It tells a story of Garth Williams, an overworked advertising executive who repeatedly dreams of escaping to a peaceful, old-fashioned town glimpsed from his commuter train. As the pressures of modern life and personal failure mount, Willoughby comes to represent a longing for rest, simplicity, and emotional refuge. So also in this window with the travel, there is also in this window where it says Willoughby Travel, there's a vintage travel poster. This is of Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico from 1930 to 1940. It's created by Alexander Dux, I think is how you say that, D-U-X. This is a WPA-era travel poster created in the late 1930s for the United States Travel Bureau, part of the New Deal effort to encourage domestic tourism. So they did this whole like See America campaign. You've probably seen these before if you've visited virtually any national park. They use them on a lot of merchandise these days. So the United States Travel Bureau was active between 1937 and 1943, and they commissioned these posters for its See America campaign to encourage Americans to explore their own country. This was designed in the Art Deco style, appropriate for this version of the tower. And you can see a couple of ones here. This one is for the Badlands. I just pulled a couple examples. This one's for Sequoia National Park, which is really beautiful with these like beams of sunlight coming through the trees. And I pulled this one too for Kirk, that is the Everglades National Park as well.
Yay! Gator country.
But, you know, I was thinking because these are all designed in Art Deco style, but we don't see anything like this in the Florida version of the tower. I think it's because of that style. That tower is more Art Nouveau and these towers were more Art Deco. And that's perhaps why they don't have any WPA posters. Even though they were time period appropriate, they don't include them in the Florida version, probably because of the design, if I had to guess.
Random fun fact. Do you know what that bird is called? You actually can see them at Disney's Animal Kingdom in the front.
No.
These are roseate spoonbills.
I was going to say spoonbill, but I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah, they are. You would be correct. They have both African, which are completely white, and then the roseate version, which are these guys. And if you're really cool, you can call them spoonies.
I feel like that's what you call them, right?
I'm not cool, so no.
No.
But Rhonda would probably call them that.
Yeah, Rhonda would.
Our resident ornithologist.
It's true. In this area, there's also some suitcases that have those suitcase labels on them, which we talked about at length in the Florida version. So I'm not going to get into it, but just as a reminder, these stickers that they put on the suitcases were advertising for the hotel. They were not actually something that the guest would put on for as like a cool souvenir from the hotel. They literally put them on with like rubber cement, and they'd stick them onto your suitcases without your permission.
Awful.
So also in this area, there is the Tip Top Club poster, this with the Anthony Fremont and his orchestra. We mentioned this when we did the lobby of the Florida version, because there's another one that's sitting behind the concierge desk. But this is from the episode of The Twilight Zone, It's a Good Life, with a very dangerous little boy whose name is Anthony Fremont, played by Bill, I think it's Umi. He was a five-year-old boy who terrorized the town of Peaksville, Ohio, with the power of his mind. Anthony liked music but did not like singing, so singers were sent to the cornfield. So that's what that is about. And here is a version of it when it went up for auction from the DCA version. So you can see the poster there. So then we go into the gift shop from this point, and I don't have good photos from the DCA version, but I did go to Paris fairly recently, and I found in the gift shop, they have a whole bunch of framed photos on the wall. And these are from the pre-show recording. It's like the cast of the pre-show recording.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and there's like a whole bunch of them. So we see the people that are in the elevator, and we see like the couple that went in there, and then just some of the random extras that they had floating around. It's almost like they just like had them on set and they took pictures of them on the set while they were there, which I think is really interesting. So those are all over the walls in case you're curious what those pictures are. But they're all in black and white, so you can't tell that the bellhop is actually dressed in blue because it translates better in black and white than red. So I think that pretty much wraps up not only these versions of the tower, but also our entire Tower of Terror series, at least for now. We will, at some point in the future, head to Tokyo and cover that one because we have to, because it's an amazing version.
It's the story itself. If you are impatient, just Google Harrison Hightower.
Yeah. It's an incredible version of the story, but it's so different than all of these ones. And we've been here for a very long time. So we thought that we would give ourselves a break, give you guys a break, and go do a few other things before we come back to that version of the tower. But Kirk, as we wrap up this tower series, what are some takeaways for you?
You know what? To me, I feel like this happens to me every single time we do one of these really deep dives. You know, outside of the Haunted Mansion, which has always been my favorite, I find that the devil is in the details. And this is so rich with storytelling that it makes me fall in love with the Disney story so much, and the Imagineers and the creators, because the creatives here have just done such a great job of place setting, stories, and then the immersion level is just next level with the cast members that are there. So if anything, maybe you can point out a couple of fun facts or a couple of details with your friends that you learned from this series. I do it all the time now, and I relish the thought of riding the tower because it's become one of my absolute favorites because of this series.
Yeah, it's incredible. This is the longest series that we've ever done on Distory. It's 29 episodes long, and it really gave us such an in-depth look at all these tiny details that, you know, you have to think that there's humans behind it that thought of each of those items that are placed in the towers. We say like, oh, it's a bunch of random junk or whatever. I was like, but somebody actually had to select and buy and bring in and install all of those pieces to tell the story that they're telling. And we found so many incredible things that hint at danger that you wouldn't have thought are there. You know, it's like things you can barely see because you're whisked by and, like, you know, in the lobby or whatnot, you know. But we even found like a fuse box that is one that's highly faulty, you know, the brand name or whatever. And like, we found so many different things. The in the boiler room, the mechanic being absent, the guy that's trapped in the boiler.
Yeah, like literally he's being lit on fire.
Burning alive, yes.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And so I think that, you know, like Kirk, I'm going to echo what he said, is the devil's in the details, that there's so many amazing, incredible details to the set design. And that is what I love so much about doing these series, is because there's no other comprehensive place that pulls all of these details together and lets you see a complete picture as well as we can about what the intention was for you to know and experience as you go through this attraction. And so hopefully it's made you love this attraction a little bit more. I know there's a lot of people that can't go on the Tower of Terror because it's just a difficult ride for them to experience. But you can always go through the lobby, through the queue, through the library, and then just say, can I please not ride? And then they have a way for you to get down, because everybody should be able to experience this queue because it's an amazing one. But yeah, this has been an incredible journey, and I'm really, really grateful for it. And what a fabulous way to end season 4 of Distory with leaving the tower, checking out, ding, on my bell with me, checking out from the Tower of Terror. Well, thank you everybody for being with us for this episode and this series of Distory. We hoped you all learned something along with us, laughed a little bit along the way, and the bell will be coming with us into future episodes, because how could we not? But thank you for being with us on this long journey, and we appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you next time for more Distory.